Jennifer Johnson. I'm an assistant professor of geography in the social sciences department. I have been at Ferris for 2 full years. This is the start of my 3rd year. The 2 classes that I teach most often are the weather and climate class and Introduction to Physical Geography, which is a lab science. In the 9th grade, I went to something called the Teton School of Science with 18 other young women in the 9th grade, and I spent a week outside in the shadow of the Grand Tetons. And we were out doing measurements on weather and rivers and animal populations, and it was really in that week that I thought, this is what I want to do with my life. I went to college at Carthage College in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I loved that school, loved it. All my professors went by their first name. They taught me a lot about collegiality in academia, but mostly they taught me what it meant to be a really good professor. They cared, and if it weren't for the people at Carthage, I certainly wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. One of the trips that I took where I was learning research techniques, and actually I went a couple of years in a row, was to Silverton, Colorado. And you spend the whole week outside digging snow pits and learning how the snow crystal changes as it sits there and what kinds of things trigger avalanches. And one of those years I remember we set up a weather station. That was the year that I learned to construct a weather station out of nothing but PVC pipe, duct tape, and cable ties. I would argue and argue with my mentor, Bill Miller, who was my geography advisor, that I was going to be in research. I didn't want to teach, I wanted to research. And he had seen a couple of my class presentations and he said, Jennifer, you are meant to teach. I didn't know that I could live up to the ideals that I had, of the professors that I had. And when I got to graduate school, I was a teaching assistant. That's how I paid my way. And the first semester I thought, this is amazing. It's incredible to share what I love with students. And so from that time on, I was pretty sure in my head that teaching was going to be what I wanted to do. Outside of class, outside of weather and climate, my first and foremost interest, of course, is my family and my small kids, Melanie and Hope. So I spend a lot of time doing little kid stuff these days. I love to craft, I like to scrapbook, I like to garden, anything that has me outside.
She breaks everything down for us, so it's pretty easy for us to learn. And she definitely relates it to real life situations, especially with the weather and climate. It's always changing. So it's very easy to understand what she's talking about.
She's a lot of fun, energetic. She knows what she's talking about and she likes to talk about it.
Being at Ferris in a classroom with a small class size gives me the opportunity to know the students, to develop the relationships that make my job rewarding. But the best part is when you have a student who's really struggling and you work with them and you spend time with them and you encourage them, and when they finally pull it off and they have that sense of accomplishment, that's the best thing in the world.